What's up, guys? I'm Evan Oshowitz for Rogers Sportsnet, live here at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to talk to you guys about 3 things that I really love about the NHL and 3 things that I really don't like about sports. We'll start with the good stuff, as always. I've got to stay positive. So, obviously it's not really true down here, but in hockey country, the fans are as passionate as anyone in the world is about anything, honestly. It's like a religion. I know that's a cliche that gets thrown around a lot, but the energy, if you go to a game at Bell Center, which I would highly recommend, just not this year because the Habs are going to be pretty terrible, but ordinarily the energy in that building is absolutely insane. And back in the 90s and before, when you had the Montreal Forum, there's supposed to be like the ghosts of the former players in there that haunt the building and help the Habs win, so that's pretty cool. You don't really find that in any other sport. And then of course in the playoffs, everybody knows that you just have to get in to have a chance to win. I don't know any other sport where it's like that. We've seen an 8th seed 2 years ago make it to the Stanley Cup final, and the 8th seed in the other conference come 1 goal away from making the Stanley Cup final. We could potentially see Nashville and Ottawa fighting for the Stanley Cup, so that would have been really something. And then of course you've got all these historic rivalries that date back to the original 6 era and before, back to when the Stanley Cup was first awarded. Obviously Montreal-Boston, Montreal-Toronto, Montreal-Ottawa, all those Atlantic Division rivalries, the original 6 teams, Chicago, Detroit, Chicago-St. Louis is another great one. Those get heated, let me tell you. I've been to several Montreal-Boston, Montreal-Toronto games in my day, and there's no love lost between those 2 teams, let me tell you that. So now we'll move on to the not so good stuff. Thanks, Dylan. So we'll start with the NBA. The NBA used to be, believe it or not, a very physical league. Bad Boys Pistons, there was a time when enforcers were a thing in the NBA. Believe it or not, it's not just a hockey thing. But of course, those days are long gone. Today, you see a guy like Chris Paul never won anything in his career. He's up 3-2 in the finals, gets a mild to moderate hamstring strain. It's the 2 biggest games of your career you gotta play. Sean Couturier for the Philadelphia Flyers tore his MCL in the last game of the season, played every game in the first round. In game 6, which unfortunately the Flyers lost because they didn't have a goalie, Brian Elliott is not going to get it done in the playoffs. He still had 5 points in that game, scored a hat trick to go along with 2 assists on a torn MCL. His teammate Ivan Provorov had a separated shoulder. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet interviewed him before the game and asked him if he was going to play. Provorov said, as long as my arm's attached to my body, I'm going to play. Where is that spirit in the NBA right now? Every year the players get more selfish and more unlikable, and it somehow doesn't hurt the league, which makes no sense to me. I mean, Kawhi Leonard, everybody knows about his famous holdout last season when he was healthy, could have played, and decided not to for reasons that were not ever disclosed. If your job is to play basketball and you're getting paid millions of dollars to do it, you need to be on the court, no questions asked. If your team is 1 win away from the finals, and it's the biggest game of your career, and you've never won anything in your life, you need to be on the court. Moving on to the NFL, everyone seems to have an opinion on the anthem protests that have been going on. I know I certainly do. Politics doesn't have a place in sports, in my opinion. You should stay unbiased. You need to keep that out. If you want to talk about that on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, go for it. But if you're trying to get political on ESPN, TSN, Sportsnet, anything like that, it doesn't belong here. It's about the sports. It's about what happens on the field, on the ice, on the court. We're not trying to be divisive here. So just keep those opinions to yourself. And then obviously the World Cup just wrapped up. I'm appalled by the lack of physicality that's in soccer nowadays. Back in my day, I was a center back in middle school. Nobody ever got behind me. You want to know why? Because I was physical and I played on the edge and I did whatever it would take to win. You don't see that anymore. Every time somebody gets mildly clipped by another player, they go straight to the referee and shoo him out for a good 30, 40 seconds. What other sport does that happen in? Obviously NBA refs, NHL refs get a mouthful every now and then when it's a really egregious call, but I feel bad for the referees in the World Cup. I've never seen officials in any sport get that much abuse. The players need to just suck it up, play the game, and play hard. That'll do it for today. I'm Evan Oshowitz for Rogers Sportsnet. Have a good night.